In this video, we're going to be talking about negation. Okay, negation means you're making a sentence negative that was positive before. Okay, so in French, in English, we make a sentence negative by saying not. Okay, I am not tall, I am not short, I am not, and things like that. I'm not skinny. So in French, not is made up of two parts, and negation in the sentence is in two parts. So here's our sentence structure. We have subject, verb, and then the object. In order to make a sentence negative in French, you put ne before the verb and pas after the verb, but before the object. So let's do an example. We have this sentence, je suis petit. It becomes, je ne suis pas petit. Okay, instead of saying I am short, it says now I am not short. Now, in spoken French, it's not necessarily okay, let's start that again. In spoken French, it's not necessary to use the ne in the sentence. If you say je suis pas petit, people understand what you're saying, and that's kind of more of a spoken language type of thing. Now, if you're going to be writing it, which in my class, yes, you have to write it for assessments, and yes, I'm going to expect you to do it correctly. Written, you need to have the ne before the verb, and then the pas that you always have. But if you're going to be talking, if you're going to be speaking, I'm not necessarily going to be taking points off or trying to make sure that you're using the ne in the sentence, because you'll get across, people will understand as long as you say je suis pas petit. They'll still understand. Now, some of you may be asking, well, then what if I use the ne? Are people going to be thrown off? No, they're not going to be thrown off if you speak proper French. If you say je ne suis pas petit. Okay, people will get it. You can use the ne when you're speaking. The only reason that I put this in is so that you don't have to necessarily use it, because there are going to be a lot of people who don't. They're not going to put that ne, so you have to listen when they're speaking, and when they say je suis pas petit, or je suis pas grand, or j'ai pas faim, or things like that. You're listening for that pas that negates the sentence. Now, as we're putting this ne in here, sometimes you'll have verbs that'll start with a vowel. All right, we know if you watch some of the, hopefully you know a little bit of the other verbs that I've talked about. So we're going to bring our verb avoir into use here. We're going to have another sentence where it's j'ai un frère. Right, this says j'ai un frère, I have a brother. But if you want to make this negative, as we remember, you put the ne and the pas around the verb, which is right here. But it's J apostrophe. So if you're going to use this spoken French, if you're going to be speaking it, you could always say j'ai pas, and then this is actually going to change to deux frères for another reason in another video that we're going to talk about later, so I probably shouldn't use this example, but I'm going to use it anyway. J'ai pas de frère. Now, like I said, this is okay in speaking, but when you're writing it, you need to write it out correctly. So we're going to change it, because we need to change it. We need to have that ne in there. So it's je n'ai pas de frère. You have this N apostrophe AI, because the ne, N-E, you've got a vowel followed by another vowel. So you have to join the two words. So you put an N apostrophe in place of the E and A. So it's je n'ai pas de frère. Okay, don't get hung up on the changing to de negative. That's something that I'll mention a little bit later. So don't get hung on that just right now. Just paying attention to the N apostrophe pa. So I just talked about how the changes to de when you're making a negative. So let's talk about that right now. Okay, if you've got or une in a sentence and you make the sentence negative, this or une needs to change to de. So an example here, sentence, j'ai une sœur. I have one sister, or I have a sister. If you're going to make it negative, your une is going to change to de. That's just the way that it works. So your negative sentence is going to say, je n'ai pas de sœur. Okay, you see this de right here is the changing of une. So une, when you make it negative, changes to de. The same with un. When it's negative, changes to de. This works for in any sentence when you're using un or une. It always changes to de in a negative sentence. So that's something a little extra you need to keep in mind as you're making sentences negative. So I also want to say that with negation, you can also have other negative phrases that you would use with this. I'm not going to go over them right here because this is really a video that I'm kind of making for French 1 and an early French 1. So I don't want to go into those negative expressions. I'll probably have another video where I'll talk about all those negative expressions and when to use them because it's kind of an extensive list. But like I said, this is more for French 1 really early, just doing simple negation. So if you're looking for something that talks about other phrases you can use with negation, you need to find another one of my videos where I'm going to be talking about other negative expressions that can be used. So as always, you are free to ask me questions before, during, or after class. You can email me questions. You can always make comments on my videos if you have questions, things that I might have missed, things you might want to know more about. And you are always welcome to watch this video more than once, as many times as you need in order to understand the concept. And ask me questions if you have them. Okay? I will see you in class.